Are Indian motorcycles the all-American brand? Let's get into it. RevelatorAlf. Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. I hope you're all well. So this video is all about Indian motorcycles, the other American motorcycle manufacturer of note, let's say. Now, a few weeks ago, I made a video where I proposed a suggestion, let's say, of a rumor that I heard or an article that I read that Harley Davidson might be ripe for a takeover or foreign investment. And basically, there was a big uproar, let's say, in the comments section, and quite rightly so. Many people feel very strongly about Harley Davidson being an American owned company. Now, within the comment section also, many people say, well, if Harley Davidson became a foreign owned company, then they would leave Harley Davidson and then they would go to Indian. So that got me thinking, how American are Indian motorcycles? Now, yes, they are an American brand, of course, and they are owned by Polaris. And there are lots of other companies involved here as well under the banner. Indian motorcycles have the same kind of issues that Harley Davidson have as well, in that they source many of their parts or some of their parts from abroad as well. They are tied in with multinational companies as well. So whilst right now, yes, you could say that Indian motorcycles or the parent company are American, that does not mean that they do not have foreign relationships or they do not have foreign investment. And parent companies can be floated on a stock exchange, let's say, and then anybody from around the world can buy shares in that company. So yes, Harley Davidson, Indian, they are American companies, let's say, but that doesn't mean that they don't have foreign investment. So this is where it all gets a little bit grey for me. The lines get quite blurred a little bit. If, let's say, some rich financier from the Far East, for example, or the Middle East, or from Europe, or whatever it is, decides to say, right, I want to buy into Indian motorcycles, or I want to buy into Polaris, or Textron, or whoever, is a parent company, or a company associated with Indian motorcycles. Right, so they buy a huge chunk of shares, or they put a lot of money that way, or they provide a lot of technical expertise, or they start supplying parts, let's say. Does that affect how Indian motorcycles are perceived? Does that affect how Harley Davidson are perceived as well? And most people already acknowledge that the American brand or the British brand or the Italian brand are very rarely 100% American, British, Italian, French, because we're dealing with corporations, with companies that actually have links all over the world, have relationships all over the world, and have suppliers and distributors all over the world as well. So, it's not necessarily just a company of a particular country anymore. Actually, these are multinational companies for the most part, and Harley Davidson especially, and to a lesser degree, but certainly on the same kind of level for the same kind of style motorcycle, of course, are Indian. So I ask this question: if one applies to Harley Davidson, do we not think that it can't apply to Indian motorcycles as well? If you perceive Harley Davidson as being an all-American, or you want it to remain as being all-American, then I would assume that the same can be applied for Indian motorcycles as well. But what if Indian motorcycles were to suffer a similar kind of fate, or have a similar kind of suggestion? Or if you dig deep enough into Indian motorcycles and Polaris and any other company, do they already have foreign investment? Do they already have foreign ownership, let's say, of certain elements? Or do they have foreign support or foreign manufacturing that is coming into force here? Now, I'm certainly not suggesting that Indian motorcycles are like this at all. All I'm saying is that there's a strong belief out there that if Harley Davidson became foreign owned, that people will automatically swap to what they perceive to be another American brand. But Harley Davidson are Harley Davidson. However, Indian motorcycles are actually owned by Polaris, and this is where things can start getting a bit weird, really, because you might think that Indian motorcycles is an American brand, and yes, they are American, let's say, but a parent company might change direction let's say, might have foreign investment. So all of a sudden, are they still an American company where other elements of the business or the corporate structure are not? So I wonder about these things, and I wonder how people perceive these issues. Now, coming from somebody who's not an American, and also I'm from Europe, and we've had this with our own motorcycle industry before I was born, actually, back in the 60s, when the Japanese motorcycles started to come over, and people were very anti the Japanese at the time, because they wanted the British motorcycles to rule the roost. But as we found out, the British motorcycle manufacturing industry, let's say, could not keep up with the kind of motorcycles and the tech and the prices that were coming over from Japan. So that kind of Japanese invasion affected us. So we know about this kind of patriotic feeling towards a national brand. But most people in this country, I would say, all they really care about is a brand that works and delivers its product. Now, whether it's British, Japanese, Italian, French, whatever it is, or American. However, there does seem to be more of a patriotic fervour feeling with the American brands, and also from those in the United States. Now, many of you watching this, in the United States, you might think, "Oh, what does he know? He's from the UK. I don't care what he thinks." And quite rightly, if you don't value my opinion or value any input that somebody from another part of the world has, that's absolutely fine and perfectly understandable. But we see it possibly less of an issue than maybe you would see it, as in, if you're American and you fully support the American brand and the American workers. For the most part, I would imagine that people around the world would certainly look at Harley Davidson or Indian motorcycles and say, all we want is just a product that delivers, and a product that is built correctly, and one that retains its kind of heritage or its feeling. And regardless of whether it's fully made in the United States, or all the parts are sourced from the United States, or whether some of their corporate structure is funded by a foreign entity, that is kind of irrelevant from that point of view, because we're just looking at a product and something that works. And interestingly, within the comments of that particular video and another video which I made on a similar kind of subject, that's the kind of feeling that a lot of people are having. It's the product. As long as the product works and it's good value and it's well made and the quality is there and it retains an American identity, that's all that matters. But let us know your thoughts about this. If, let's say, something were to happen to Harley Davidson and it became foreign ownership, would you automatically think that Indian would be the go-to brand? Or would you say, do you know what, it doesn't really matter anymore, I'm just going to go for a motorcycle that suits my needs, and it doesn't really matter where it's built or how it's assembled, as long as the quality is there and the support is there from a dealership network, let's say. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Harley Davidson riders automatically going over to Indian? Would you do it? Let us know. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, like and share, and check out the website at RevelatorAlf.com. Ta-da!